everybody, and welcome to my updated World Tier 4 Werewolf Companion build. I'm going to be showing you a couple different ways to play this, a little bit more defensive ways. I'm going to go pretty in depth with everything. So by the end of this you should have a pretty good idea of how to play a Werewolf Companion build on World Tier 4, and if you're struggling to play one, maybe a little bit of the reasons why. Maybe it could be stats, maybe it could be affixes. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's jump right on into it. So first off, we have aspect of the Skinwalker. When you use a shape-shifting skill that changes your form, gain 398 life. If you're at full life, gain the same amount as Fortify. You're going to want 3 ranks into Wolves. You're going to want Max Life. You're going to want Poison Creeper. And for the 4th slot, you're going to want, armor's fine, a defensive is fine, but also getting something like attack. I want to say you can roll critical strike chance, but at the same time, armor's fine. Any offensive stat here is also fine. The 4th stat's kind of up to you and what you prefer. But the main thing is 3 ranks to Wolves, 3 ranks to Poison Creepers, and Max Life are going to be the 3 kind of core things that I recommend for this. The Max Life is absolutely phenomenal. So, next we're going to have Armor of the Crowded Sage. You heal for 26 life per second for each close enemy, up to 147. This combos extremely well with aspect of the Skinwalker. You're going to be going in and out of form all the time. You're going to be up close and personal all the time, so you're going to have a very large amount of healing happening virtually all the time. So for the secondary stats, and the secondary stats on your chest piece are pretty important, you're going to want damage reduction from distant enemies, you're going to want damage reduction from close enemies, and then you're going to want damage reduction from poison enemies or damage reduction while fortified. Ranks to Earthen Bulwark is fine here. It's just because I ran out of rerolls and my enchant costs are just insane on this this piece of gear right now. That's the only reason why I don't have it. It's just because it didn't want to roll for me. Then you're going to want companion skill damage after that. Make sure in all your armor you are doing the 3% damage reduction while fortified. So next we're going to have Doom Gauntlets of the Alpha. Your Wolf Companions are now Werewolf Companions. Werewolf Companions deal 100% additional damage and can spread rabies. You're going to want attack speed, you're going to want lucky hit chance, 3 ranks of shred, or I guess ranks to shred, however high you can get that, and then critical strike chance. So the reason why we want the lucky hit chance on it is because it'll increase our odds of proccing our pack leader. So critical strikes have up to a 20% chance to reset the cooldown. It'll just make it easier to proc this, which is really what we want. Next, you need Storm's Companion. Well, sorry, I say you need, but you don't actually need this early on. You do need this later, but you do not need this early on. This is more of a quality of life, and this is something that helps you scale well later on into the Paragon boards more than anything. So, your Wolf Companions are infused with the power of the Storm, dealing lightning damage and gaining the Storm Howl ability. So what Storm Howl does is it's an AoE damage ability, and then it also Storm Howl doesn't do this, but it does change the dash from a jump to like a teleport that they do whenever you use the active on your wolves, so it makes your wolves a lot more functional. It also does something very unique. So you'll notice here that your wolves are now Werewolf Companions, but when you come over here it does not say that it's a werewolf skill. Now this does not make any sense at all. I think this is something that Blizzard should definitely be changing. So your werewolves do not actually benefit from werewolf skill damage, because this is still technically not a werewolf skill. That being said, this actually does turn it into a storm skill and a nature magic skill, and you can see it typed right there. So that means that this will now benefit from any storm or nature magic passives, abilities, or anything like that. And that's actually pretty sweet if you ask me. So it does offer some interesting opportunities for things like running Tempest Roar and stuff in your headpiece to potentially get more spirit and stuff like that. But like at the same time, you do want you really need defense with this build. That's the reason why I'm not going Tempest Roar or something like that, is because you give up defense when you do give up a decent amount of defense when you go that route, not being able to get the secondary aspect. But that being said, because these benefit from storm and nature magic skills, when you get into the Paragon boards, you're going to get a ton of damage onto your wolves now because of that. They also deal lightning damage as well. So anything that increases lightning damage, anything increases storm skill or nature magic skill damage is going to apply, and it also gives them this very interesting interaction now to where they can proc constricting tendrils. So that's actually another poison that they can do as well whenever they're attacking things. So it's pretty cool. Next up, we're going to have Eluding Adventurer's Boots. Oh, and for the pants, this is all pre-rolled. You can't change any of this, so this is going to be what you get whenever you find these pants. You don't need these early on. If you don't have these early on, just do the same stat rolls here, except for I don't think you can get companion skill damage on your boots, or sorry, on your pants. You can just go for really whatever. Just focus on getting the 3 defensive stats on your pants, and you'll notice a really huge increase in your survivability. So, that being said, Eluding Adventurer's Boots. Becoming injured while crowd control grants you Unstoppable. So we don't have an insane amount of access to Unstoppable, so getting access to Unstoppable is pretty useful. This does have a 40-second cooldown. However, you can get this down to 20. I'm using this from an aspect, or from a codex, so it's automatically mineraled, unfortunately. You're going to want dodge chance, you're going to want dex, you're going to want damage reduction while fortified, and then for the 4th stat, I'm using spirit cost reduction, and the reason for that is because in the abilities I took wild impulses, so that increases my core skills cost by 9%. So that's going to equalize that out since I didn't take the generate extra spirit on my generator. Going to make your poison creeper put your shred on absolute steroids, because your poison creeper is going to do an astronomical amount of damage, and this is going to make that damage be applied instantly at 60% increased effectiveness. It says instantly dealing 162% of the poisoning damage to them, so that's really saying it's an increase of 62% if I'm not mistaken on how I'm reading that. So it's a damage multiplier for your poison creeper damage that gets activated with your shred. However, it does make it part of your shred's damage. So then by multiplying shred, it takes the damage even further. So it's a pretty solid little combo here that really stems off of your vine creeper, then kind of pumping your shred damage to make it do just astronomical amounts whenever this procs. Alright, in terms of stats, just make sure whatever stats you have on here you benefit from. So we have access to vulnerability, so having vulnerability on here is good. Damage over time is good because you do poison. Damage to poisoned enemies is good because we do, things are poisoned a lot. Damage to healthy enemies is good because shred's going to do a lot of burst. Damage to crowd control enemies is going to be good because it slows, but you want to avoid things like overpower and stuff like that because we do not overpower in this build. Okay, unless you go the werebear version of this, which you just swap out shred for pulverize, and then you just throw on aspect of changeling's debt. And that'll make it to where your werebear skill instantly detonates all your poison, and it actually has a higher multiplier. This is a werewolf companion build, and I'm trying to stick with the werewolf theme here. That's why I'm using it. But I think technically, if you're looking to do the most possible damage, I actually think that putting like pulverize or something like that on here would actually be a bigger bursty multiplier. Okay, that being said, moving on to Shepherd's Necklace. So core skills deal an additional 11.3% damage for each active companion. So this is really where the companions shine. They are absolutely just pumping your core skill damage, and I mean absolutely pumping it. So if you do the math right, it goes all the way up to 16% on a two-handed weapon. You get 9 companions. You get 4 here. You get 2 here, even though it doesn't say it. You do get 2, and then you get 3 here. So you're getting 9. Right, so you go 16 times 9, and all of a sudden you have 144% increased core skill damage. That's a lot of core skill damage, right? That's why this is so powerful, and this is actually how it really seems to me that companions are a better supporting tool, where instead of just 100% solely relying on them, right? Because they just absolutely amplify your core skill damage by astronomical amounts when you actually run full companions. So when it comes to secondary stats, you're going to want ranks to all defensive skills. Well, actually, sorry. No, you don't necessarily need that. I have it on here. But what you do want is like crit, cooldown, stuff like that's fine. The main things you're going to want are ranks to Call of the Wild passive. That's huge because it's giving you a 30% increase to your damage, and then ranks to all companion skills. And then after that, you're going to want companion skill damage. So if you can get like crit, companion skill damage, ranks to Call of the Wild, and companion skills, you have just the God Amulet. Like, it is so tough to find. I have been looking, and this is the closest thing I can find, and I still even I went and tried to re-roll one of the stats over to companion skill damage, and you can see it's not working out too well for me. So after that, we're going to use Ring of the Stampede. This gives you one additional companion, which in turns amps up your Shepherd's Necklace. It also increases your companion skill damage by up to 20%. And it gives you an additional one, so now you have 3 wolves, now you have 4 ravens instead of 3, now you have 2 vine creepers, right, proccing stuff. Alright, and then for ring stats, damage to poison enemies is good, damage to crowd control enemies is good, vulnerable damage is really good, but the main thing you need is critical strike chance. So on any piece of gear, so like your gloves, your rings and stuff, you really do want to try to get critical strike chance, because critting more gives you more of a chance to reset your companion abilities, and that's really important. So like right now I have about a 40% crit chance, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here, where's my crit chance? Oh, right here, right in front of my face. So yeah, I have about 40%, but I think I could get this up to 50 if I got a little bit better rolls and then got another piece of crit on like other items I don't have it on, right? But it's really important that you get that crit up. It's really, really important. So after that, we got Band of Retaliation. Your core skills deal up to 38% increased damage based on your amount of Fortify. We're going to be fortified virtually all the time between this, Earthen Bulwark and stuff like that. It's, your Fortify is going to be way on up there. In terms of stats, again, just crit, damage to close enemies, vulnerable. You actually have a lot of variety on the stats you can do. You just want to make sure that you benefit from them would be the main thing. So if you're worried about having to fish for like ever to get a good one of these, it's like as long as you have 4 stats that are on there that are benefiting, you're probably fine. Obviously I think vulnerable is one of the better ones. I think critical strike damage is probably also one of the better ones, but it's fine. Just make sure that you benefit and you don't have things like overpower, you don't have things like earth skill damage or anything like that. You don't want any of that. Okay, so that is it for the gear, secondaries. Now when it comes to gems, damage reduction while fortified, damage over time, and then skulls to increase your armor to get more defense, right? So there's actually quite a bit of defense built into this once you really start to get your secondaries right and stuff like that. Okay, spirit boons. So for spirit boons, we want reduced damage from elites. Coming down here, I like the 10% max life because I just, I'm huge on defenses. As you move up, I think you're going to find that the defenses are more of the issue than doing the damage. Then we want Scythe Talons, increase critical strike chance, so that's going to give you even more crit. It's going to help you out a ton. Come down here, Pack Leader. This is the main boon that you absolutely need to have on. Your crits have up to a 20% chance to reset the cooldowns of your companion skills. When you get companion skill resets, it is going to be wild for you. Like, wolves, poison creeper, ravens, and all of a sudden they all reset. That's a ton of damage just coming out. Then you're going to want Masochistic. Critical strikes with shape-shifting skills heal you for 3% of your max life. This is really just the best option here. You don't use an ult skill, so I mean, yeah. Okay, so moving on into the skill tree. So first off, we want Storm Strike, Enhanced Storm Strike, Fierce Storm Strike. This gives us access to Immobilize and Vulnerable, which is a damage increase, and having things CC'd increases our damage in other ways. We got Heart of the Wild. We got Wild Impulses. This is going to increase our core skill damage. We got Shred, nice and maxed out. Gains 30% attack speed, heals you, and then you want it to dash. So it makes the second and third attack also dash. I have found, and it also increases the critical strike damage by 20%. So I have found that having this on helps proc this way more. So I would highly suggest it, because notice that it says while dashing. So you need everything to dash, and ideally whenever you're fighting, you're going to want to like kind of target things that are a little bit further away from you, so you dash and you'll kill everything in between that, right? Okay, so after that we want Predatory Instinct. Critical strike chance against close enemies is increased by 6%. Then you're going to want Earthen Bulwark, Enhanced Earthen Bulwark, and Preserving Earthen Bulwark. So this is going to help you just survive and gives you access to Unstoppable, which is pretty important. Next up, you're going to need Ancestral Fortitude and then Vigilance. So after using a defensive skill, it's going to give you 15% damage reduction for 6 seconds, which is pretty nice. So whenever you are getting into like some sticky fights and whatnot, whenever you pop Earthen Bulwark, that is going to just completely destroy any CC that's on you, so you can actually get away and do whatever you need to do. You kind of have to use this pretty strategically whenever you're fighting, just to make sure that you have it up to get out of important CC that the enemies are doing. So that being said, moving on, we got wolves, we got enhanced wolf pack, and we got brutal wolf pack. So when you critically strike, your wolves gain 20% attack speed, and they also deal 20% increased damage to immobilized, stunned, slowed, or poisoned enemies. So because these things can do rabies and stuff like that, they're actually going to proc their own damage multipliers, stuff like that, and you're going to crit a decent amount, so they're going to have the attack speed buff quite a bit. Next, you're going to want Poison Creeper. Obviously this is your huge damage ability. You can see it says there's 103,000 damage here over 6 seconds. It actually goes way up when you walk out of town. This is not even the correct numbers. Once you walk out of town, all these numbers go way up for whatever reason. You're going to want to go ahead and max that out. You want Enhanced Poison Creeper, and then you want Ferocious Poison Creeper. You do this to increase the duration, which means it's going to do more poisoning damage, so your Blurred Beast is going to proc and do more. You want to put 1 point into Ravens, and then Enhanced Ravens, and then Brutal Ravens. It gives you more crit to things that are inside of the Ravens, or into things that have been hit by the Ravens. And then you also get 2 more Ravens, which then procs. The main reason why you run Ravens is because the ability itself is not really that great. It's because you get 4 times 16% core skill damage by running them. That's the main reason why you run Ravens. It's just another buff to your core skill damage. However, there is it's something else you can do if you're finding you're having trouble surviving. You can drop Ravens. If you want to stay with the flavor of being a werewolf, change these to Boots of the Dark Owl. This is going to make it to where your Debilitating Roar is now a werewolf skill. And then you drop it, and then you just take Debilitating Roar. So Debilitating Roar is going to give you Fortify, it's going to give you Heal, and it's also going to reduce things damage that you cast it by for 4 seconds by 70%. So it's pretty solid survivability cooldown, and it gives you access to more healing. So if you are having trouble surviving, you can drop the Ravens, and you can go for this. Now, it is going to lower your Shepherd's Necklace by a pretty decent chunk. However, you are still going to be getting like 55% damage increase with it being on the necklace. If it would be like up to, I don't know, 70 something, 80% if you had it on the weapon or something like that. So it's still worth running. It's just noting that yes, you are going to lose a considerable amount of damage if you stop taking Ravens, but if you need the defense, you need the defense. If your damage is fine and you're doing plenty of damage without it, then feel free to drop it and then to run the Debilitating Roar so you have more defense, because then you will also have more uptime on your Vigilance as well if you use Earthen Bulwark into Debilitating Roar. Now if you don't like the Skinwalker combo that I have here, you also could go Aspect of Mending Stone and Aspect of Might, or you could go Aspect of Mending Stone and then leave Skinwalkers, or leave this one depending on which one you like. So there's some leadway there with your defensives. Okay, moving on down here. We're taking Neurotoxin, we're taking Envenom, so poison enemies take increased critical strike damage, then we're taking Toxic Claw, so critical strikes with werewolf skills deal 8% of the base damage as poisoning damage over 4 seconds. This is just helping us keep our poison up. So, moving on, we got Quick Shift. When Shape-Shifting skill transforms you into a different form, it deals 15% increased damage. Because we're doing Storm Strike into Shred, we proc this pretty well, so it's just another 15% damage multiplier, and then another way to fortify us a little bit more whenever we shapeshift. Then we got Defensive Posture. This is increasing the amount of fortify you gain from all sources, and then 15% chance when you are struck to fortify you for 4% of your base life. So whenever you really get into the middle of things, things are all going to be hitting you, and you are going to be fortifying a ton. And then lastly, for the key passives, we are taking Lupine Ferocity. Every 6 werewolf skill hits, critically strikes, and deals 60% increased damage. Now, you might be like, man, you only have 1 werewolf skill. Why would you take that? Well, it's because whenever Shred procs, it pretty much procs this on its own. If you use this inside of like a pack of things, it is going to just blow it up, and it'll proc the Lupine Ferocity instantly, and you'll see. You will definitely see. And this also hits 3 times, so using 2 shreds actually procs this, and it also guarantees a crit. And by guaranteeing a crit, we're guaranteeing more of a chance to reset our companion skills. And, you know, on top of that, it also buffs the shred damage even more, which gives it yet another multiplier to do even more damage. If you wanted to, if you're going like a Werebear version, you could go Urge Scene Strength, get 20% max life, and just deal 30% increased damage. But those two would be what I would recommend, depending on if you're going Werebear or Werewolf. Okay, onto the Paragon. So, when it comes to Paragon, it is important to note that certain nodes are going to have more of certain stats in them around the glyph slots, so you need to pay attention to that whenever you are doing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the Paragon calculator that I have here on D4 builds, because I am going to have a link to it in the description. You're going to want to go ahead and go and start picking up the dexterity. Now in some of these nodes you're not going to be able to get the whole entire active bonus just yet. Sometimes you're going to need to get this up to 15 in order to do that. However, there are certain other ones you can take in other places where that is not the case. That is why the first board that I'm going to suggest that you attach to is going to be Ancestral Guidance. And the reason for that is because there is enough intelligence in this board that you do not need this at 15 to get the secondary passive. This is going to be the biggest damage increase to your companions. So, and it also is going to give you another multiplier for the passive portion of the companion skills. So it's going to make your werewolves auto attacks do quite a bit more. It's going to make your creepers poison that applies do a lot more. Ugh, jeez, can't talk. And then it's going to make your raven passive do more. This is going to be the biggest damage increase you can get for your companions through the Paragon. So it's important that you go ahead and pick this up first, because we are a companion build. You can see that I went up here just to make sure I could pick up these core skill damage nodes. And then I went over here just to make sure I could go ahead and get access to this. Now you could, if you wanted to, go up here and get Ancestral Guidance, but I'm not, it's a lot of investment, and you're not really, there's nothing else up here that you really want a whole lot of. I mean, Spirit on Kill could be pretty good, but it's just not, there's not a whole lot of other things up there. You know, you're getting all your damage stuff down here, so in my opinion it's better to just go ahead and go over here. But if you do want more shred damage, then taking Ancestral Guidance could be good, or taking that node could be good. So next off, we're going to go into the Heightened Malice node. We're going to come straight down over here to our glyph. We're going to put Territorial in this one because this one has a lot of dex slots in it. So I opted to take glyphs that increase the damage of my wolves the most consistently. That's why I took Territorials, because I know I'm going to be up in close a lot, so I'll be proccing this quite a bit. I think the Fortify one is also pretty good though, if you want to take that. But go ahead, pick up all the dex stuff around here, come down here, pick up damage to poisoned enemies, pick up the dexterity nodes for this, and then then you can start working your way up. Now keep in mind, this doesn't factor in like items or anything, so if you have a little bit of intelligence on your gear, if you have a little bit of intelligence or of willpower on your weapon, it's not factoring that in terms of getting those secondary bonuses. So keep working our way up here. We're going to go ahead and grab Heightened Malice, which is going to be pretty good. And when it comes to getting these active, don't be afraid. If there's like a way for you to get a main stat on a piece of gear and you need it for the Paragon, you know, keeping that stat on there is probably fine, just so you can get that bonus. Alright, come down here. Then we're going to go into Thunderstruck. Now we're not going to take this because it says Storm Skills deal 30% increased critical strike damage. Now I have not found that this is going to be a huge damage increase for the wolves, because the wolves would be the main thing, because you know, obviously your Storm Strike is not going to do like a crazy amount. So I mean, this is technically a damage increase for the wolves, but I kind of passed up on it and opted to go for a different legendary node. So come down here, pick up the storm skill damage. This is all going to increase the damage of your wolves. That's the reason why we're taking it. Come down here, pick up Bane. This is going to, poisoning damage effects have a 10% chance to deal double the amount of damage over their duration, and it increases the poison damage you deal by 7.6% per 5 intelligence. So this is going to increase your poison creeper damage by a lot, by a very, very much a lot. Come over here, you can go ahead, pick up all this damage reduction stuff to vulnerable enemies, because we do actually proc vulnerable a lot, so this is just a decent damage reduction buff. Come on over here, get damage to crowd controlled enemies, pick up Deluge, 15% critical strike damage, 15% increased damage to crowd controlled enemies. This is all good for your shred, for your wolves, for everything. Go ahead, come over here, just pick these nodes up, just because they're in the way, not for any particular reason, but they are a decent maximum life boost. And then we are going to come over here to Constricting Tendrils. Now this is going to be the next legendary node we actually get. So we're going to go pick up all this crowd control damage, maximum life, and then we're going to come down here, we're going to pick up Constricting Tendrils, and the main reason for this is that it gives your wolves another way to poison enemies, which is pretty sweet, and it does a decent amount of poisoning damage, so it'll just help keep more poisoning on them for longer. So not too bad, not too bad. Then go ahead, come down here, pick up Nature Skill Magic damage. This is all buffing your wolves again. So all this stuff is buffing your wolves, and it's also giving you more damage to elites. Come over here, go to the glyph socket, use Tracker. You deal 7.6% increased damage to poison targets. Poisoning damage effects last 33% longer. This makes your Vine Creeper do even more damage because your poisoning damage is lasting even longer. Come over here, more nature skill damage. This is going to increase your wolf damage. Come down here just so you can get the dexterity. It's also a maximum life boost. That's going to be it. So when it comes to Paragon and it comes to leveling, right, because this is what you would do if you're like already maxed out. You have all your Paragon points. But that being said, actually, if you're leveling, you want to get this one in terms of like glyphs and importance. It's actually really important that you get this active, and then it's going to be more important that you get this active next, because this is going to be a huge increase to not only your wolves, because this says 7.6 increased damage to poison targets, but also your Vine Creeper. So that's gonna, these two are gonna be the biggest increases to your actual like poison creeper damage, and alongside your wolves and other things, right? So you want to try. So if you're early level, you could go here, and then you could immediately go into the Constricting Tendrils board, and then after that, I would say, I mean, this is pretty good because your poisoning damage have a 10% chance to deal double the amount of damage over their duration. So it's like there's going to be times where you're going to like shred, and it's just going to hit for just some absurdly high amount because this procced, right? But it's not going to be insanely consistent because it's only a 10% chance. So going for something like this, so going for like Heightened Malice and going for like Territorial, or the one that increases your damage while fortified or increases your damage to vulnerable targets, those are all pretty good. And keep in mind, you can switch the glyphs around. However, it's just that some sockets are not going to give you access to your secondaries as fast, so you have to keep that in mind when you're leveling them up. But I mean, if you level up these to 15, you can put these in virtually any glyph socket, and you'll be able to get that secondary. This is just, you know, which sockets have the most, because certain sockets have more access to more intelligence than other sockets. Certain sockets have access to more dex than other sockets. Like I think this one has access to like 50 dex, whereas this one has access to like 40 dex, for example. So it's just kind of like a, I don't know, a little bit of a min-max perspective. So you can put these glyph sockets whichever way in there, whichever way you want. But I do recommend going Ancestral Guidance first, because I think this is the only one that has access to the 25 intelligence before level 15. So that would be the main suggestions. But after that, you can kind of move things around however you want to kind of fit wherever you are at in the game, which obviously is hard for me to know. But yeah, so that is going to be it for Paragon, skills, spirit boons. Let's go ahead and get into a demonstration of the build. Alrighty, here we are in Zenith in Fractured Peaks. So I'm going to be doing this a little bit different from the way I've done it in previous build videos. I saw some comments, people saying that they didn't like that I sped it up. So let me know if you guys want me to keep doing it like this at normal speed, or if you'd rather me speed it up a little bit and then kind of commentate over it. So this is just going to be me doing a dungeon and then commentating as I go. So let me know if you like it. Alright, so first off, you can see huge damage from poison creepers, just absolutely astronomical. Right, you can blow up small things with the wolves passive. See this. Alright, you can see we just got a reset, and then boom. I think we just hit that guy for 1.9 million. Pretty much one-shot that guy. So, unfortunate that we have to go against Frozen Wind, because we don't have insane access to crowd control. What you can do is just kind of walk backwards, and then do this. And you're going to notice something here, and this is going to be one of the biggest cons of the build, and that is that your wolves kind of die to AoE effects real easily. And I don't know if Blizzard is going to fix this in the future, because it kind of makes wolves higher up not that useful. And boom, right there, Blurred Beast proc. See how I kind of walked backwards? I like to walk backwards because I find that it helps increase the consistency of it. Boom, and then bam. Alright. And you'll kind of notice that I do like these random bits of burst damage. A lot of it is because Poison Creeper just kind of activates and puts a little bit of their passive poison on there. So even though I don't have this poison on there, I still have 44,000 damage of poison on there whenever the Poison Creeper just kind of gradually activates. So it still makes your ability do a decent amount. And boom, 1.3. Alright. I think the highest I've hit with this build is like 3.9 with like the God proc of like everything lining up really well. So you can see that you can just kind of one-shot elites with this. The wolves are really going to kick in on the boss, I would say. They have pretty decent sustain damage, but yeah. Boom. Kill everything. So super sweet. And I know some people might say, oh man, it looks like your Shred's doing all the damage, but you have to remember, if I didn't have these companions here, my Shred would be doing a considerable amount of less damage, right? That's kind of the whole point of the companions, is they're enabling my other abilities to do a heck of a lot more damage. Alright, let's go here, and then let's see. Just notice how I just blew up that whole entire pack? That's how Blurred Beast works. It hits every single thing, which is nice. So just try to make sure you're hitting everything as much as you can, just to increase the chance of getting that proc. Okay, go ahead and hit these levers. But you can see I'm not really having any survivability issues. You know, if I run into heavy CC, I do just kind of walk backwards a little bit. I say, okay, I gotta wait it out, gotta wait out my cooldown. It's not like I'm playing a Grizzly Rage build where it's like, nope, don't care. I'm just going in and blast. Because this is not, you know, obviously gonna like dethrone the meta builds or anything like that, but it is a fun way to play companions, and it is tier 4 viable, so why the heck not, you know? Alright, we got a reset, and boom. Alright, cool. And the Wolf active does a decent amount of burst, but it's nothing too crazy. Alright. Yeah, especially if only one of them is alive. I want to say it does the most damage if all three of the wolves hit. So if they die for some reason, and they do come back after 10 seconds, so I know like dying is an issue, but like they do come back, so it's not like, you know, they die and you can't ever bring them back or anything like that. Do this, look at that, make them teleport up. Okay. And one way I do like to use the wolves is if there's like a damage resist aura or something like that, you can almost like pick out like the little guys that you want to blow up, because it'll typically one-shot a little person. So, boom. Yeah, and you can see that just the Poison Creeper really does a lot of the work. Okay. Keep on keeping going. Return bloodstones to the pedestals. Oh, looks like there's one down there. No, that's just where the pedestals are. Okay. Keep on. You can also see that we have full fortify virtually all the time, so we are getting pretty good value out of aspect of retaliation. Damage resist guys are just so annoying. Oh, there I go, walking the wrong way again. I do wonder how what's going to happen during the seasons, what they're going to change, because I think there's a lot of room to improve the companions. Like if they added in a legendary that said you take X amount less damage for each active companion and just kind of played more on that, I think there could be some pretty sweet builds that could pop up. Boom. And then, bam. See? Alright. Ooh, is that a unique item? My gosh, what'd we get? Temerity! Holy crap, I have been looking for that for 7 days. Actually, so long. My gosh, and you guys saw me finally get it. Just goes to show, even when you're level 85, blasting 10 hours a day, you will eventually find something. Holy. That is awesome. Alright. So, keeping on. See, and you can see that, you know, the wolf will actually just one-shot these smaller enemies. It's really mainly good to kind of clear the smaller trash if you're trying to set up to kill boss. So let's see how much damage we can do here. Yeah, see? It did like half health. Just half health, that elite. That's cool. For that, I guess, enemy. So let's see. Let's see how much they do here. Yeah, so you can see they're hitting. Got poison. It's alright, and then bam. So you can see that, you know, the wolves do a decent amount of damage. It's just, they just die so much that it's just unfortunate. And they've actually made it a decent amount. And having this increased shred damage so you can kill things faster does actually help keep your wolves alive longer. So they can actually go out and do stuff, you know. So we keep going. Bam. Bam. Alright. And yeah, if you are having survivability issues, because obviously I am a higher level, I have more access to Paragon, you know, don't feel free, because you can see that I'm way overkilling this stuff, right? So you can drop Ravens and run Debilitating Roar, you know, Aspect of the Dark Hout, whatever you want, you know. Like you don't have to do it this way. So I'm just letting you guys know that if you're saying, oh, I'm having trouble surviving. And that also kind of goes into make sure your secondary stats are on point on the chest piece. It does not matter as much on tier 3 and lower tiers, but the higher up you go, oh, it makes a difference. I promise you, it makes a difference. Ooh, 1.7 million, that's cool. Man, I want to get a big one. I was playing this earlier today and I got 3.9. I want to see if I can get a 3.9. That'd be sick. Oh, alright. And sometimes it's a little wonky. It decides it just doesn't want to like activate correctly. That and that. Boom! Big hits. Boom. And every single dash you do, by the way, goes to proc the Lupine See Ferocity. So critical strike and bonus damage on 6th strike. See, I am so watch. See, it's a 2, 3, 5. Jumped up by 2 there. Okay, let's go ahead, do this. And there's multiple ways to play this. You don't have to do shred. You could do pulverize. You could even do landslide. If you wanted to do landslide with this and go for more of a range build while your minions kind of go in and do whatever, you could actually swap out. Gosh, let's see here. You could probably swap this out for landslide does like hits twice, and then you could even maybe swap, I don't know if you want to swap out aspect of the alpha, but either swap out aspect of the alpha or maybe even this, so you can get your the trample does landslide, and you could almost make like a companion trample slide build, which would be kind of interesting, right? So Alright, moving on to, we got one more, and then we can fight the boss. And I will say this about the wolves. The wolves' boss damage is not too bad. Like, I would say, it's not, you know, obviously there's a decent amount of burst that goes into it with Shred, but it ain't too bad. It ain't too bad. And I also want to make a comment about rabies, because some people might notice that I have dropped that completely, and the answer is simple. It just doesn't do very much damage, and I didn't really see a whole lot of value out of pumping it up. So, you know, after testing more and more, you know, I figured that I'd have a better use of those points putting it into defensives, because I have certain things that I didn't do in the last one. And you can see that they still put rabies. You guys see that cloud that was on that? So they're still applying rabies, and it does still spread, so it does still help proc the poison. It just doesn't spread as fast when you don't have that passive, which is fine, because we have 2 poison creepers going on all the time, so, you know, why even worry too much about it? Alright. Let's keep on keeping on. Fight this boss. So, pretty happy with how this build turned out, though. Obviously, it's not dethroning any of the meta builds, but it's still fun. You can see it's very easily viable. I could be doing Hell Tides with this. And I'm level 85, and this is scaled to level 85, right? So, and then, bam. So I'm just going to let the companions kill them, the rest of it, just so you can kind of see the damage here. Gonna let poison creepers hit, just gonna try to let ravens hit, and then I'll use the wolf active. See that chunk from the wolf active? Not too bad. So they have decent damage on bosses, because bosses don't typically kill the wolves, right? So, but at the same time, if I, you know, use the poison creeper active and then shred it, I'm also chunking it huge with all these actives. So yeah, but this is it. This is the World Tier 4 viable companion build. I hope this guide helps you. I have a lot of fun with this build. And remember, if you're struggling with this build, just keep on trying to get levels. Look at your secondary stats. Make sure you get the damage reduction, because I think survivability was the biggest thing I was seeing in the comments people were talking about with the builds, is that, man, I just have so much trouble surviving. So that's going to really, really help you the higher up you get, especially in World Tier 3. This build should absolutely dominate World Tier 2. You really shouldn't be having any issues once you get all these pieces together for World Tier 2, I don't think. And then with World Tier 3, that's when you're going to start seeing a little bit of survivability difference. So that's when you need to start looking at your secondaries. But that's also when your gear is going to get good enough to you know, care about the secondaries and stuff like that. Because when you're like a really low level, the secondaries is like 3%, right? And make sure that you're socketing your gear with gems. You know, damage reduction while fortified. Because that's, let's see, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15% damage reduction while fortified. And you guys saw I was pretty much fortified the whole time, so that's 15% more damage reduction. You can absolutely immeasurably boost your survivability just by caring about the secondaries, and then just kind of thinking about how your defensives are comboing together. Personally, I think Skinwalkers and Crowded Sage is a very great combo that a lot of people are sleeping on right now for the Druid. So anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Like, subscribe if you want to see more. It helps me out a ton. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.